In today's video, I'm going to show you how to take some easy but eye-catching macro autumn detail shots from the comfort of your own home. What I'm actually taking photos of is just a decaying leaf. Now in last week's video, I took quite a few leaf photos on my wanders through the woodland, and I kept going on and on about how great leaves are as autumn macro subject matter, because we've got all the different textures, all the different colors, and as we start to get further through autumn towards winter, those leaves all start to change even more. They start to decay, they start to break down. And so the textures and the details on these things just become more and more interesting. And so this leaf particularly stood out when I was out shooting, so I picked it up, popped it in my bag and brought it home. The reason it stood out is because it kind of caught it halfway through this decay. The whole actual original shape of the leaf remains, but it's all basically skeletal now. So much of the actual, I suppose, flesh of the leaf has all broken down and gone away, but we've just got these little parts of it still left in these golden colors, these greens, these oranges. And I thought it could be a really good subject to shoot at home, create a studio setup and get some creative shots. And I really like doing this kind of thing because it always gives you something to shoot. At this time of year, it can be really difficult to get out shooting, particularly if it's really cold and wet and just constantly raining. It makes it very difficult to want to pack your kit bag and actually go out and take photos. So doing something like this can really scratch that creative itch you might have, but means that you can stay home and stay warm and dry. So let's get on and have a look at what I've got set up here. Clearly, we've got the leaf itself. Now, when I brought this home a week ago, I put it between two big books to hopefully try and make it go as flat as possible. And that has seemed to work. It is basically as flat as a piece of paper, and it's also pretty rigid. So even though I've got it clamped here, it's staying completely upright. And above, I have got a big LED light with a big softbox on it. To be honest, for this sort of shot, you can use any kind of light. I'm using an LED because I'm also doing video, so I need that continuous light. But you could do this with a flash. You could do this with a very standard speed light that you would have on your camera. Crucially though, you do need it off camera, whether that's using a wireless trigger or just using an extension cable. Because what I want to achieve here is a really nice top-down light. The reason is because that's really going to highlight all these little skeletal forms, all these tiny little details on the leaf that are still there. It's going to help create some shadow, and it's going to help bring these textures out on the yellow parts that are remaining. Particularly when I'm shooting against a black backdrop. And that's exactly what this is. It's just a piece of black fabric, which I had lying around, and I have just draped it over my background stand. You could use any piece of black fabric. You could use a black t-shirt, you could use a black towel, or a black piece of paper. This is not some high-end studio photography specific bit of material. You can find anything like this lying around. So let's actually take a look at what this is looking like through the camera. So this is what my camera is seeing at the moment, and for my first setup I've just gone with, I think, a fairly standard composition here, vertical with the leaf fully in the middle of the frame. You can see that because I've got this nice top-down lighting, it's lit the leaf really well, and that background has fallen completely to black, and as a result all of the leaf really stands out against that background. And I think that contrast is what's going to give us a really eye-catching shot here. So I'm at f11 because I really want to maximize the sharpness here. Because the leaf is so flat, I don't think I'm going to need to do any kind of focus stacking here. I think if I just focus in the middle of a leaf, everything should be nice and sharp, but I will double check that. At my lowest ISO possible, ISO 100, that's giving me a shutter speed of 1/6 of a second. So I'm going to use the 2-second timer here just to make sure that there's no motion blur in the camera. So I'm just going to start off by tapping to focus, 2-second timer. Now, as like a first hero shot, I already really like that because it just shows off that leaf so well. And shooting against that black background really emphasizes the difference between the parts of the leaf that's still remaining and then the parts that are all skeletal and see-through. I think it works really well as a standalone image. It's the sort of thing that I could imagine printed, but I can also imagine it being printed as a triptych. So 3 different images, and maybe that would be one of them, and the 2 others would either be detail shots of the same leaf, or maybe even it's 3 different leaves shot in exactly the same way. Could even have been cool if I'd have had this leaf when it was a little bit more alive, and I could have done 3 shots in different stages of decay. I didn't do that. This is all I've got. So I'm going to lean more into the first one and try and get some nice close-up details on this stuff, really leaning into the macro side of things to go with that first image. So let's actually bring the camera in closer. I'm not going to move the leaf at all. I really like the lighting here, so my settings probably aren't going to change. All that's going to change now is where I put my camera, where I point it in different parts of the leaf to get the photos that I want. And I don't yet know what that is going to be, so it is just going to be a case of moving the camera around the leaf and seeing if any particular compositions stand out to me. So I'm going to be looking at the way that the lines of the leaf go across the frame, see if anything particularly catches my eye. I've focused here on where the stalk actually joins the rest of the leaf, and as it does, it kind of breaks off into all of the different arms, creating this sort of nice burst effect. So I've very much put that part in the middle of the frame so that all of those things radiate out through my image. Now it is looking a little bit like some of these parts are a little closer to the camera. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to focus stack this, so I've upped my aperture to f14, so I'm at now 0.3 second exposure. So again, that 2-second timer is going to be crucial to avoid any camera shake. Touch to focus, and there's my shot. It does look like everything is absolutely pin sharp here. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how this looks. But let's get even closer now. So I like this scene here. There's a lot going on. We've got a lot of both elements of the lovely yellow parts of the leaf and also these lovely big patches of the skeletal remains. So f14, 0.4 seconds, tap to take my shot. I'm just going to flip the camera because again I want to focus on this lovely central stem because we've got the lovely yellow parts of the leaf and all the different skeletal parts branching off from it. That one doesn't do quite as much for me. I'm going to move the camera around and again just move with my live view and see what stands out. This has stood out very nicely. I really like that we've got the diagonal of this part of the leaf cutting through the scene, but we've also got the different layers of flesh, skeleton, flesh, going through the image. There's a lot going on, loads of texture, loads of detail. So again, tap to take our shot. I'm going to try and get even closer now. I really want to get up close on these actual skeletal parts. So I'm going to set my camera to manual focus at this point, just so that I can change the focus point to be very, very close. But I am going to struggle to get my tripod in a little bit, so let's do it this way. Actually, similar shot as before, except it's a bit closer up. Got a lovely diagonal line cutting through the image. Manually focusing, f14, half a second exposure, tap to take the shot. This shot here, I think I am going to have to focus stack because if I focus on the very tip of the leaf here, I can see that it very quickly drops out of focus as we get towards the top. And I think even f14, if I just take a shot, yeah, I can definitely see that it's sharp down here, but it's definitely lost sharpness towards the top, and I really don't want that. So what I'm going to do is just quickly take a shot with my hand in the frame. That way I can see a very clear marker of when my focus stack is going to begin. I'm not going to need to do many focus stacks here, but I am just going to zoom in right down on the leaf down here. I'm going to then zoom in again slightly further in, take another, and then just repeat the process until we've got right the way through the leaf. with everything in focus. And the same here. I think I'm going to have to do a focus stack because there is a little bit of distance between different parts of the leaf. So as before, focus in the bottom left corner, take my shot, shift that focus, take my shot. At f14, so much of it is nice and sharp that I really don't think I'm going to need to do lots of focus points. 3 or 4 really should just about do it. I'm really filling the frame with the skeletal part here because I just love all the textures. And actually, I really feel like it looks like a top-down view of a city. You know, these are your main roads coming in, and then these are your suburbs with smaller roads leading off. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Let me know what you think if you see that too, but that's what I see when I look at this. So again, starting at the bottom corner, I'm gonna have to focus stack this, and I take my shot, move through the scene, take another. Really enjoy just how many shots I'm getting from just one leaf. The leaf isn't moving, it's just staying in the clamp. My lighting isn't moving. This hasn't moved at all. I haven't touched this. It's just about moving the camera around and seeing if any shots stand out. And loads do. So just the fact that this is one dry leaf, and I really think I'm getting a lot of shots that I actually quite like. I'm looking for quite abstract shots here that really focus on that form, the textures, that duality of yellow to skeletal, which kind of really emphasizes that decaying nature of the leaf. I like this shot here because we've got the lovely strong diagonal line going through the scene. We've got that pocket of eaten away decay in the top. I think it works really well. I've got a rule of thirds grid on, which is helping me find some compositions and kind of seeing how things line up. And this one works well. Diagonals, of course, very good compositional tools. Focusing in the bottom left corner, changing my focus, taking another shot. Same again. So I'm just going to keep on moving the camera around, adjusting my scene, playing with angles, putting the camera in a weird place, and then just slightly shifting the leaf, taking my shot. I really like the contrast of the leaf against the black background, but have I got anything? I usually use this as a reflector, but I wonder if I put this in behind the leaf. I'm certainly going to need to adjust my exposure because it's now going to be very, very bright white. But I wonder if I took this shot with a white background. Yes, that is very bright, and also you can see all of the marks and things on this. What about a piece of white paper? I'm sure I've got one in here somewhere. Nope. Just white paper. Hold that in behind it. F14, a fifth of a second. It's definitely a different look, going for something much more high key. Let's back the camera up. I'm going to take another full portrait of the leaf, but this time with the white background. Yeah, I mean, it's very different, isn't it? But I don't like it as much. I definitely think against the black is where those leaves really stand out. But let's do a couple more, just to say that we have. So this time, just focusing on the top left of this leaf here. We bring this white in. F14 still, a fifth of a second. I think it's okay with white. It's certainly not a bad shot, but just personally, I think I prefer the black background. I really think it allows those details to stand out more because they are lighting up as a light color against a dark color, so you get that amazing contrast. But maybe that's just personal preference, so of course do let me know if you've got a preference in the comments. The last little shot that I want to get, so I want to try and put this little bit of green that's remaining into a shot, and I think it's going to involve getting it really close so we can fill the frame with it. Something like this. Again, the actual arm, stalk, whatever it is of the leaf, it's a nice diagonal going through, but I really like that we've got that shift from the green into the yellow. So we've got the color contrast, then we've got the contrast between the flesh and the skeletal. So I think this looks really nice. Again, it's going to be one I'm going to focus stack. I'm going to tap in the top corner, tap in the middle, and then tap in the bottom corner. But I think that probably brings me to an end of today's video. I've genuinely really enjoyed this. It's so basic, it's just one leaf, and yet I've got a whole handful of shots that I actually think look pretty interesting. And fine, maybe these are not the macro photos we all dream of taking, but I think that it's something really interesting and special about them. And it's definitely felt like a nice creative exercise to do when I really don't want to be going out into the cold, into the wet with my cameras. So I love doing these little at-home photo shoots because it just keeps you energized and excited about your photography on those days when you don't have the time to go out. And this one has been really simple to do and really enjoyable, so I definitely recommend giving it a go. So head out, find some leaves, see what colors and textures you can get. And if you get any good shots, do please make sure to send them my way. I'd love to have a look at what you do. You can tag me on Instagram with @BatteryHQ. I can't wait to see what you get. But that's it for me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, do please make sure to hit that like button, and of course consider subscribing to my channel if you don't already, and I will see you next time.